What's up, guys? Welcome to the Battle Harder podcast. I'm Coach Rob. I'm your host here on the podcast, where I hope to motivate, educate, and inspire you to become the best version of yourself. Today is a very special podcast. It's called Unlocking Mindset is Success with my new friend, David Amerland. David is going to come on camera here in a second, and we're going to get into who he is, what he does, and how he works in the mindset industry. So a little bit about David. And David, if I'm wrong on anything, feel free to correct me when I'm done. But you are a search engine optimization specialist, right? Like you are on I would assume, like from what I've read about you, you're pretty much the go-to guy for SEO. And anybody doesn't know what SEO is, that's what you need for people to find you on the internet and find your websites through keywords, which David has took it a step further and kind of gone into the mindset information on search engine optimization, correct? He is an author. Go ahead.
I've been following essentially human behavior because that's what ultimately guides what we do, whether we're online or offline. So although to talk about search sounds a little bit divorced from most things which have to do with behavior, it's actually intimately tied to that. So it's been a journey where I've been following how we interact with technology, how technology affects us, then how that affects what we do, what we understand, how it changes aspects of what we see and what we project. And then that leads to other things. It leads to decision making.
And yeah, that's pretty awesome,
yeah.
Because like that goes into the whole mindset psyche of marketing, of why we buy things, how we buy things, how we feel about brands and companies. And beyond that, you have a new book out called Built to Last, which I would consider that a mindset and fitness book. Is that correct?
It is, absolutely, yes. I mean, we all know the importance of keeping fit, but the statistics show that we don't. And examining why and how we can actually improve on that is what the book is about.
And that's amazing. And that's what the Battle Harder podcast is all about, is personal development. At the end of the day, the tools that I give you and the guests I have on, like David, is to inspire you to become the best version of yourself. At the end of the day, we have one life to live, and you might as well optimize that life to the fullest, whether that's through working out, your diet, nutrition, your knowledge. You have to become a total package. And this isn't just for men. This is for women. This is for teens. We're in a part of society where we're like on the downfall of society, and we're kind of regressing. So people like David and I, we're trying to bring you back to the forefront. We want to make you the complete human. David, talk a little bit about your martial arts experience and how long have you been doing that?
I've been training martial arts since I was 13. I'm 60 now, so it's like 47 years pretty much. And I've got a black belt in Taekwondo, WTF style. I've got a second degree black belt in ITF Taekwondo, and the distinction is primarily political.
David, tell the public or the community, where are you currently joining us from right now?
I'm in Greece, magically enough.
So that's awesome. So what would you say is your thought on the mental framework for decision making and how that leads to success in your experiences in search engine optimization and mindset, and how you train physically? What are those mental frameworks that is going to make better decisions or help people make better decisions? Like, what's your thoughts on that?
Now, the moment we start talking about frameworks, we need to keep in mind that context sometimes changes things. But if we look at the unifying element across pretty much everything which you just said, you need to look at your who and your why. So whether you're talking about search, whether you're talking about business, whether you're talking about fitness, whether you're talking about your own life, if you don't know who you are, really, and if you don't know why you're doing what you're doing, then your chances of becoming distracted, unfocused, and lost increase exponentially.
So with that being said, what do you think has helped you, or what goes on in your thought process that helps you keep on track to be the kind of person that you want to be?
Okay, that's, for all of us, myself included, in trying to understand who we are, we need to understand a couple of other things. Why are we the way we are? And where do we want to go? Now, the way we are is always the product of many different people and circumstances that have contributed to that.
Right.
And sometimes that's been positive, sometimes that's been negative. But in understanding that and untangling all those things that contributed to our identity, then we begin to understand exactly why we behave in certain ways, why we don't behave in other ways, and that gives us a path to self-optimization. Once we begin to have that, then the question is, where do we want to go? This is where we understand our why a little bit better. And if we understand the direction we should be heading towards, then we have a kind of roadmap, which gives us a plan of sorts. And it's a classic thing, isn't it? If we fail to plan, we're planning to fail.
Plan to fail. Right. So one thing that I'm currently working on, and I think people may not realize this, is I agree with you 100% on everything you just said. Physically, from our upbringing, from our lifestyle, from the people around us, there's so many external, internal factors that form us as a person, but it's never too late to do what I call character design. And just essentially like if you were to play a video game or develop a character for a movie or a script, you have to write out what that character is. What is their traits? What is their belief system? What is it that they want to become? So I believe that at any point in life, if somebody does not like who or what they are, you can actually character design the version of yourself that you want. And in turn, by actually writing everything down and being very specific, exactly specific in what you want. So, for example, I wouldn't say that I want to be a millionaire in 5 years. I would say, no, I'm going to build a business and this business is going to sell this and this business is going to make this amount of money. And in 3 years, I will make this amount of money, and be exactly specific in your intentions. And when we write that down and design that character, what traits do we want to have? What kind of wife do we want? What kind of house do we want to live in? You can actually start to reverse engineer that to get to exactly where we want to be. And I don't think enough people realize that it doesn't take necessarily talent and it doesn't necessarily take intelligence. It just takes the will to continue going past the point where nobody else wants to go. And a lot of times people aren't successful because they get to a point, a breaking point where it's like, this is too hard. It's uncomfortable. I don't like this. And then they revert back to their old ways. So would you agree with that? Or what would you like to add to that?
First of all, I love what you said. We need to be able to break things down, realize them in detail in order to make them real for ourselves inside our head. And then when we can model them in a kind of detail, then we stand a good chance of actually going through the actions that will bring about the outcome that we want. And that's the difference between planning and wishful thinking, which is critical. What I will add here, and this is really, really important, there was a study done on Navy SEALs. Navy SEALs are already pretty fit and pretty capable when they apply to be Navy SEALs. And then they go through a grueling process, and about halfway through, they go through Hell Week, which is like literally about 7 days. And that's designed to push them to the absolute limit of all their capability, mental, emotional, psychological, physical. They just go through everything. And about 75% fail in that week. And there was a study done to actually see, because the military spends a lot of money on that, they're interested to see what's the difference between those who fail and those who pass. Because on paper, the distinction is so tiny that you couldn't actually predict who's going to fail and who's going to pass just by going through all the characteristics that they have up to that point. And this is what they discovered. The single difference between those who actually made it into the 25% and those who tapped out and became part of the 75% was their perception of what that Hell Week actually did to them. And the ones who tapped out, this is what they thought in their head. This is hard. It's breaking me down. Can't take it anymore. It's destroying me. And they tapped out. The 25% experienced the same amount of difficulty, the same amount of tribulation going through it. And this is what they had in their head. This is hard. It's pretty much destroying me, but it's making me better. And that difference in approach, and in the real world, outside the military, we say, is the glass half full or half empty? And we don't really realize what we're saying. But that's exactly that. The glass is always 50%. But if you see it as half empty, you're putting yourself under pressure, you're feeling stress, you can't think analytically anymore because you go into panic mode, into survival mode. and you can't make the decisions that will help you out of your predicament. And if you see it as half full, you're still kind of chilling in your head. You say, I've got 50% still. The higher centers of your brain kick in, have more analytical thinking, you're more intuitive, more creative. And then you can find a pathway through the same exact situation that wasn't obvious to you when you're in stress mode, when you're in survival mode. So that's that difference. This is where all those things which you just said actually play out. If you just go through wishful thinking and sort of make a vague wish for the future, which you already know is unrealistic from your current position, all you're experiencing is stress, potential failure, all those things. You're unlikely to actually do something. But if you break it down into steps, which show you how to utilize your capabilities and go through those steps to get to the outcome that you want, at every step of the way, the battle to get there is just as hard, but you feel emboldened. You feel your confidence rising. And that's the difference. And that's the difference between success and failure.
And that's 100% exact. And basically what you just described is what we're doing is personal development. You have to come to a crossroad in your life where you say, okay, if I go left, I'm going to continue doing the same thing that I'm doing, and I'm not going to have a purpose. I'm not going to go anywhere in life. Or I can go right and take the hard path. And we realize this is just like society, and especially with Americans. You know that America is probably one of the most obese countries in the world. You can tell people all the time, like, hey, there's fitness, and fitness is hard and it's challenging and it costs money. Or you can continue to take the easy path, but in the long run, you're going to be paying for the medical bills. You're going to be paying for the health insurance. You're going to have to paying the doctors. And people don't realize that medical and healthcare and all that is designed to keep you sick. And, that's another podcast for a whole nother episode. But if people would just take the hard road and have that mindset shift to say, okay, I'm uncomfortable, but I'm comfortable in being uncomfortable, as I like to say. On the other side of that is success. On the other side of pain is success. On the other side of fear is success. And I think that's why most people don't get to success these days, because they're so comfortable in just being average and normal and I'm just functioning through life. So I love your theories, and I definitely want to get to a point where we can shift not just Americans, but the world, people that want to be better, to say, okay, enough is enough. If I'm going to have a better life, if I'm going to have a better relationship with my kids, if I'm going to have anything that I dream of, I have to biohack my mindset first. And that comes from not having limiting beliefs. That comes from positive self-talk. Like you said, as a veteran, I'm a veteran. I've been diagnosed with major depressive disorder, PTSD, anxiety from my time in my service. But I don't ever say I struggle with those things, because I don't. I deal with them head on through mindset and biohacking my mind. And just like the Navy SEALs that made it, like you said, they came to that point where they're like, okay, this sucks. It hurts. I don't want to do this, but this is what I want. And I have to turn this pain into progress. And if I don't turn this pain into progress, I'm not going to be the elite of the elite. And I think that goes for any special forces branch in the world. So you have to essentially start with mindset is everything. Unless you change your mind, you can't get fit. Unless you change your mind, you can't get a better job. Unless you change your mind. And people like to use all the time, oh, well, I was brought up poor, or I didn't have this, or I didn't have that. But we have so many resources in today's society. There's no excuse not to be able to do anything you want to do. So with that being said, what parallels do you see between military precision, like you just talked about with the Navy SEALs, and being successful or making smart business decisions to improve your life and your business?
Okay, so I'm glad you asked that. Essentially, most military operations and most military training starts from the reverse. They start with the outcome that they want to achieve, and then they reverse engineer it into all the little steps that need to happen in order for them to actually get there. And an interesting thing takes place. First of all, the planning becomes very granular. Instead of saying, we're going to do all these things building up to that moment, we start with a moment that we need to reach, and then we work backwards. And because of that, the steps are very granular, and they're broken down to very specific things. And any obstacle that stands in the way instead of being a limiting factor, simply becomes another problem to overcome. If you don't have something, you say, okay, how do I go around it? If I don't have what I need, how can I make do with what I have? If this happens, how can I do that? And then another interesting thing happens, because if you learn to work like that, then you also learn to work with contingency plans, because nothing ever goes according to plan. So you say, okay, this will happen. If that doesn't happen, what's our fallback plan? What's our fallback position? How do we go there? And if you do all these things, then suddenly you have unshakable confidence in yourself that you can pull through, because you've done it in such a detailed fashion that you think, whatever happens, I've designed this, I've been through it, I've trained when it comes to a military operation, but even when it comes to a business operation, you go through all the different parts of it, you do your calculations, you put your business plan together, you do your market research, you bring in all the elements that you need in order for your business to function. And then you have to say, will it work? And then because you've done all that, it's highly unlikely that it will not work in some fashion. It's never perfect, but because you've done it, your confidence is actually dealing with it, is what drives you through and gives you the eventual outcome that you want.
And you're definitely correct on that. The military has a great way of teaching us that, like you said, whatever your objective is, it doesn't matter how you get there or how you achieve that objective, as long as you get to that objective. So that may be going under, it may be going around, or it may be going straight through. And the clear-cut path might not always be the initial path that we're going to take to get to where we're going. But when it comes to personal development, being successful, you have to keep going. And I think a lot of people in society today, once they get to like their 20s and 30s, they think they're forced to be stuck like in this lifestyle and this like simulation of that they have to have the wife, they have to have the house, they have to have the 2 kids and the dog, and that they're just stuck from not being able to obtain that dream. And I would apt to say that it doesn't matter if you're 20, 40, 60, 80, as long as you have breath in your lungs and you have another day ahead of you, you can fight to be the best version of yourself, and you can do steps to be 1% better every day to get to or achieve that goal. But you have to realize that things that are important to us and things that we want in life take time. We're in this world where everything is instant gratification. I can have this now. I can Amazon this tomorrow. I can get this today. And things that are worth it, like if you want to have muscles, that takes time. If you want to lose weight, that takes time. And I think the problem is people fall into this false sense of security when it comes to like, I can just get Ozempic, or I can just, do this or do that and take the quick route. And then when it fails, you're like, I don't understand why this didn't work. So do you have anything to add on that?
No, or rather, yes, a little bit. I think it's true what you said. There's a lot of obstacles in everyday life which arise out of different situations, different perceptions. But when it comes to success, when it comes to actually getting to where you want to, a lot of people don't realize that it has to be engineered. And what I mean by that is that essentially you have to create the conditions around you which reinforce what you're doing and support it. So to take an analogy, if we take the best warrior in the world and he's on his own, the chances of that person succeeding in their mission, and it doesn't matter how easy or how hard it is, are significantly higher than when he has a team around him. And they're even higher if he has also an environment that he understands and he knows how to function in. So basically that's engineered success. We use the military as an example because it is literally cutting edge and everything is life and death there. So the margin for error and the margin for slip is 0. But if we take that they succeed in impossible odds because they learn about that engineered success. You need to basically set yourself up to succeed as opposed to setting yourself up to fail. And that's where we usually go wrong in everyday life, because we don't face life and death decisions. We don't face life and death pressure. So all the options are more or less the same, and we tend to take the one that's the most available to us without examining if it's helping us or hindering us. And that's how we should actually look at the world around us. Is this helping us or is it not? If we live in a town where there are no gyms, for instance, our options for exercising go significantly lower because there's nowhere to go. So then we have two other options. We say, okay, there's no gyms, I can't do anything, I'm going to stay at home and eat myself to death. Or I can basically see what I can do, what I can learn, what I can put in place to replace the fact that this town has no gyms. And that's engineering your success. So you want to be a healthy, fit person for life. You want to get to your 70s, 80s, 90s and be functionally healthy, mentally sharp, enjoying every moment of the day and feeling good in your own body. That's going to come directly from your actions, but those actions have to be engineered in an environment that makes them as easy as possible every day, because life itself is hard. For, battle-hardened warriors, elite soldiers, life is difficult. They're going to go into battle where they're going to face huge adversarial conditions, unknown unknowns, known unknowns, and things may go south very quickly, and they still have to put everything through. So they basically make sure that the things which are there for them to help them have been engineered. They know their colleagues, they know their routines, they know their contingencies, they know their plans, and their training is up to scratch. So that mentality applied to everyday life then can actually engineer success. And that's what engineering success looks like. Identify the obstacles, try to remove them, or go around them. Identify what you need to help you, try put it in place. Do you need somebody to support you? Find a supporting partner, or find a supporting community. Do you need a particular type of information which will allow you to make up for the shortfall in education, knowledge, availability of options, whatever? Get it, empower yourself, and then don't tackle it entirely on your own. Find your support community. Find those who will help you rise as you help them rise. And that's what engineering success actually looks like.
I like that. And I think a lot of times, they always say like who you surround yourself with is going to also affect how you act and how you proceed. And like you said, when I was in the military, I knew exactly who I would want to have my back and who was on my team versus the guys in the military that maybe I didn't want them to be with me because I thought maybe they would put my life in danger, or they weren't going to be as up to par or have the same mindset as I do. And I think you're right. When it comes to success, you have to find the people that you want to be like, and you have to network with the people that you want to be like, and be able to take criticism from those people because they've already done what you wanted to do or gone where you wanted to be, and be able to use that to your advantage and have that, intel. Like in military, we get intel telling us what's going to happen, where the target's going to be, and you have to be able to disseminate that intel to help you achieve your goals versus just trying to spinning around in circles like, I don't know how to do this. So I think your description is actually spot on. I wish a lot more people would have a more military mindset and not, I like how you spin things because you make things very easy for, I would say, like a non-military member to understand, because I think a lot of time when people hear military mindset, they think, oh, you have to be like gung-ho, warrior, kill, 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 no emotions, robotic, straight to the target. And no, it's more of a training and how you educate yourself to get to your objective. So before we're at about 27 minutes before we go a little bit further, I'd like to actually you talk about your Built to Last book, primarily what it's about. I know about Darby. I don't think a lot of my public knows about Darby, so I'd like to be able for you to talk about that a little bit. So talk to us about the Built to Last book that you wrote. Did you enjoy writing this book? I mean, give us the scoop on the Built to Last book. I looked at it and so far I'm enjoying it. So I hope this book has much success for you.
Thank you. Writing is a funny business always. Obviously the process itself is enjoyable up to a certain extent. And then you get to towards the end and you poured in so much effort and work and research. And this happens to every book, that you lose all perspective. So you finish it and you think, okay, I don't even know who's going to read it and how it's going to go. But this is natural. And I'm glad you mentioned just earlier about the misunderstanding about the military mindset and how people think soldiers are robotic and have no emotions, because I'm going to bring this now here. And essentially, the emotions we feel become the drives that we have. So this is the same situation whether you're a soldier or whether you're a business person, or in my case, you're a writer. So you need to understand, and this is what I have understood for myself, that every time that I finish a book and I'm emotionally drained, then I've sort of lost sight of how good it is or how bad it is. And I usually think, this is rubbish. Nobody wants to read it. Now, in the past, I actually used to believe that when it was my first book and the second book. But now I know it's a natural process. Soldiers know that they're going to get tired in battle. They're going to feel fear. They're going to feel uncertainty. Instead of blocking those things off, they embrace them and move through them. And the same thing happens with business people. You get tired, you get disheartened, you're going to hit rock bottom sometimes. And then you have to basically pick yourself up emotionally first, and then mentally, and rise from that. And the same thing with every book. It took me 3 years to write Build to Last.
Oh, wow.
The origin, there's a lot of science that I had to go through, and then I had to understand it well enough in order to explain it simply. This is one of the perhaps most accessible books of the books that I've written, and this is like book number 19 now. And the origin of it is pretty funny because I didn't really intend to write a book on fitness. I had no plans for that. But I've got a friend who's a cop, and we train together once a week. And we've been training together now for 3 years. We're pretty close. And we train for a couple of hours once a week. And he trains at home. He has his own gym. I've got my own gym at home. But we get together. It's kind of a social thing as well. And in that moment where we sort of interact over the years, and he's asking questions, I tell him about studies I came across. It has to do with fitness. He would sort of, pop questions, would examine things that are misconceptions, would see what the latest article in some popular magazine said, which is totally wrong about fitness, and would laugh about it. And out of this give and take, that was a spark for Build to Last. So essentially, it's a roadmap, it's a blueprint on how to make, first of all, how to understand what fitness is, because we have huge misconceptions about it. We think that either we have to be, male models or Schwarzenegger types, or, absolute catwalk models, share a woman, and it's nothing of the sort. And then how do you actually get, once we dispel the myth and we say, okay, fitness is going to be a personal thing for everybody, it means something different to each person according to their situation, their circumstances, and their aspirations. And then from that, we say, okay, how do you actually go towards making it happen for you? And then I sort of break it down. It's only about 7 chapters long, into very sort of granular steps you can take, which allows you to then say, hey, I can do this for my whole life. And I know it sounds difficult for people who haven't exercised to think that they're going to start exercising suddenly and then keep it up for every day for the rest of their life. But it is certainly feasible. I will say that it will change how you feel, and then it will change how you think. And these two go hand in hand. And if you change your feelings and your thoughts, then your body also changes. So sometimes we see, if we take athletes, and if we take the extreme elite athletes in the Olympiad, they're undeniably fit and have lean bodies and strong muscles. That's a side effect. The stuff we see is a performance-related side effect that comes from their brains and their emotions, which drives them to do specific things. And if we had the same feelings and emotions, and we went through the same kind of training that they do because we have those feelings and emotions, then we would turn out to be like that as well. So really, it's about how to use who you are, understanding your who in a very nice, soft way, and clarifying your why in order to basically make your life better in a lifelong process. So you don't get ill. You don't lose mobility as you age. You don't lose the joy in life, which comes from having an active body and having that body participate fully in the world around you. So that's what Build to Last does. And it gives you everything. It gives you the science behind it. It gives you everything in sort of very down to earth, everyday language. It gives you workouts to do, and there are 84 workouts. Every chapter has 8 workouts you can do, kind of long, varying length. And then it has 4 workouts, which are very short, in case this is all the time you have, only maybe a couple of minutes. And a couple of minutes can be enough if you do it often enough.
So for my company, Battle Fitted, and the Battle Harder podcast and personal development, fitness is the number one pillar of anything I do as far as coaching. If I coach anybody, I'm going to look at your fitness first. Fitness can actually tell me a lot about a person, their business mindset, their home mindset, their relationships. Fitness is such an integral part of our life. And like you said, not just to, if you like to have muscles or want to look a certain way, but I always like the term functional fitness. I want to be able to walk upstairs when I'm 80 years old. I want to be able to carry groceries. I want to be able to get in and out of a car without issues. And unfortunately, a lot of our veterans and military members, when they get out of the military, they just fall apart. And I always tell everybody that if it wasn't for me having a strength and conditioning regimen and going to the gym and constantly training my body, I would succumb to my injuries. I would have more back issues. I'd have more knee issues. Fitness is the actual fountain of youth. And like I said previously, I would rather pay $30, $40 for a gym membership versus paying hundreds of thousands of dollars for an operation or for medicines to be on. I really enjoyed and am enjoying reading your book. And where can people currently find Built to Last?
It's on Amazon. It's on Blackwell's Books in the UK. It's on Barnes and Noble. Pretty much you can order through your local bookshops if you want to support your local bookshop, which I highly suggest because they're a part of our community. So if you live in a small town and you have a bookshop, you just go in there, and if they haven't got it, they can order it for you within a couple of days.
So for the community listening, if you're watching this on YouTube, I will put the Amazon link down below in the description for the Built to Last book. If you're listening to this on Spotify or iTunes or iHeart, check out Built to Last on Amazon. I'm assuming if they search either Built to Last or search by your name, your book should come up on the Amazon search. And do you have any closing thoughts or final remarks before we close out this episode?
Yeah, absolutely. I know fitness is hard for all of us. It doesn't matter how long we've been doing it for. It is something which at the back of our mind, we always resist doing. And those of us who succeed in making it an everyday, lifelong activity have tied the outcomes we want to the personality, the identity we have. So it's emotionally driven. And the reason I'm explaining this is because nobody has it easy. And we all totally get how difficult it is. But if you don't tie that identity of yours into the person that you want to be 10, 20, 30 years from now, how you visualize yourself, whether you're active or whether you are happy or whether you're getting joy out of life, or you can do pretty much anything you want. If you don't do that, if you don't actively tie it, then you will always struggle. And if you always struggle, then what's going to happen? You're going to fail because the struggles kind of add up. It never becomes easier.
I think what people need to realize, and I say this all the time, motivation is bullshit. You're not going to always have the motivation to work out. You have to have the discipline, the consistency, and that comes over time. And if you don't know what to do, I suggest looking at David's book, Built to Last. The workouts are very easy. It's nothing that's going to be strenuous on your body. Or simply just go for a walk 30 minutes every day. That alone over time will do so much for your health that you wouldn't believe that just walking, a normal everyday activity, could help. Tips and tricks: park your car as far from the grocery store as you can and walk. Simple little mindset and personal changes in your life can make a huge difference. David, I thank you for this episode today. I think this is going to be a great episode. We'll put David's social links below. Don't forget to follow me at BattleFitted on Instagram. Like and subscribe to the Battle Harder podcast. And we're going to hopefully have David here on a couple more episodes to talk about some different things. And this has been an episode of the Battle Harder podcast. Turn your pain into progress and always be fit for battle.